Hello, bonjour, namaste, ni hao, and ohio, everybody. What is going on? It is Gale here. Welcome back to the YouTube channel once again for another Danmachi Season 5 video. And today, we are here to do a quick review of both Episode 9 and Episode 10. Of course, I was a little bit late to, of course, watching the two episodes. If you want to check out my live reaction, I uploaded that about 2 or 3 days ago. You guys can go and check it out. But of course, now I can sit down and actually do my review of the two episodes. I've had the chance to also read the end of volume 17 and of course the start of volume 18 to get a better idea of how I feel about the episode from both a light novel reader perspective and my first time watching the episode perspective as well. Now, of course, if you guys want to enjoy today's video, remember to leave a like down below, subscribe to the channel, all that sort of good stuff. I will still be doing cut contents that'll probably come out either tomorrow or day after tomorrow. I know episode 11 will have probably come out already by then, but I want to still get it out for you guys so that you guys are aware of what you guys missed out on, of course, from the light novels that wasn't, of course, shown in the anime as well. So be on the lookout for that. And of course, again, put it in the comment section down below. What did you guys think about the episodes yourselves? Did you guys like the episode, dislike the episode? Your thoughts? I'm curious to see what you guys have to say down below in the comment section, especially now that it's been quite some time since the episodes have aired, right? Like I said, I'm late to doing these reviews, but it's a little bit different as well for you guys now because, again, you might have had the chance to rewatch it, you might have had the chance to digest everything, and maybe you have more thoughts in regards to the episode. So let me know in the comment section down below, and I'm curious to see what you guys have to say. Now, I will say that episode 9, and we'll start off with episode 9, was pretty good in all honesty. I really enjoyed episode 9, to be quite honest. I have some criticisms regarding episode 9, but it again comes down to that whole point that I've been making, I think, in almost every single episode that we've watched so far, is that it just feels like, you know, we needed a couple of more minutes in some way, shape, or form, right? And to be fair, they did a good job in this episode. They just completely skipped the opening, of course, right, for this episode, which again is the right decision. I always say that, you know, them skipping the opening always helps because it just gives you an added advantage of an extra minute and a half, 2 minutes basically, right? Those 90 seconds to 120 seconds can go a long way, and you can see it in this episode that it does help, you know, because we obviously see a more drawn out sequence, of course, of the Ryu, you know, coming out of the chamber, of course, right, from the underground chamber of course, Folk Wagner, and being able to obviously take on the Freya Familiar, distracting them basically, while at the same time we're able to also see, you know, Hermes' Familiar setting up the firewood, getting ready for what is, of course, you know, Hestia, Hermes, and Uranos's grand master plan, basically, right? I think it's a very good thing that they decided to skip out on the opening, because again, if you didn't skip out on the opening, there could have been certain things we missed out on, potentially things like, you know, minor details such as, of course, let's go back here. I think yeah, this scene, for example, I wasn't sure if they were going to actually show this scene, but we could have missed out on this scene. We could have missed out on a little bit more exposition from Horn as well when she's talking to Belle, and so on and so forth. Again, small things like that could have been skipped out on if we didn't have the opening. If we had the opening, I should say, in this situation. But anyways, enough about the opening. Great stuff there. Now, I will say once again, big shout outs to the VA performances here, especially Horn's VA. You know, I will say that she does a phenomenal job in kind of portraying that sort of like psychotic but broken sort of psychotic sort of voice acting, and then that kind of is what I always inferred as Horn, you know, portraying as, especially, you know, considering what situation she's in, right? She wants to protect Freya, she wants to save Freya, but because of her conflicting feelings about Belle, because of her conflicting feelings about the entire situation, because of the shared feelings she has with Freya as well, it is really well done here. I'm really impressed with Horn's VA in this scenario, and I really adored it. I think this is one of those scenes that I didn't really think of much in the light novel, to be quite honest. In fact, I even mentioned in the episode, right, that I forgot about certain things that happen in the sequence, but seeing it, and of course, listening to the VA and also the words and everything, right? It is so much better. It is so much better. I'm very, 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 very impressed with this entire sequence, especially Horn's VA. Like I said, I think she knocked it out of the park. So hats off to her, and I think it was a really well done scene. Now, I want to move a little bit ahead, of course, right? Because to be fair, a majority of this episode is that. For the first 10 minutes, pretty much, like, you look at the first minute to the 10th minute, of course, it's pretty much just the Horn and Belle discussion sequence, right? Obviously, you have Ryu coming out, and then, of course, Hermes' familiar sending out the firewood. But for the most part, it is that, right? The first half of the episode is literally just that. Now, I want to move a little bit on to, of course, this sequence, of course, right? Where Belle is talking to Freya, and, he's going on about how he's going to save her, and him realizing, of course, the fact that Freya is Seer all along and everything. And, of course, Horn is Seer and all that sort of malarkey. He realizes the gravity of the situation, the truth of the situation. And I really enjoyed the flustered looks that Freya had. I think they animated those looks very well. Once again, this is where I give a lot of credit to JC staff for, is their facial expressions. And I know certain fans will probably disagree with me on this one. Their facial expressions for almost every character except for Eyes is really good. I mean, even Eyes can be good. We've seen it in the earlier part of the season when she's stress eating. That you get that sort of feeling from Eyes still, nonetheless. I just think that, of course, maybe there still needs to be some work done with Eyes. Maybe a better job needs to be done with Eyes, or just generally we need to spend more time with Eyes in order for them to do stuff they want to do, maybe with Eyes. But yeah, that's one place where I'd say they need to improve. But otherwise, you look at the scene, right? Again, great emotions shown on the face of Freya, that flustered look. Because even though you could argue that she's maybe blushing at this point, right? Where her cheeks become rosy red, of course, for a split second. Yeah, here. But it's more so she's becoming red because of the flustered face, because she's flustered. And you can tell that by the facial expression and her voice acting as well. So again, two things that are meshed together really well in this episode, and I'm really, really glad that they did this. It's a scene that I actually thought of more of, and when I was going into this episode and I was thinking about this episode, right, there were two things I had in mind. Of course, Belle talking to Freya for the first time properly as Belle from the Hestia Familia, not Belle from the Freya Familia side, and of course the Vesta scene, right? Those were the two things I was looking forward to the most going into this episode, and I was not disappointed. However, the Vesta scene, I think, could have been done a little bit better. Now that we're talking about the Vesta sequence, right? Let's talk about it. While we do get an idea and an explanation of what's exactly happening, Hestia's blood, the Ichor, being drained onto the firewood, and everything, and that's how, basically Hestia is effectively using her own divine power. Well, I say divine power, but her own power, not divine power, because it's two very different things. She's using her power as the, goddess of hearth, the goddess of home, basically to eradicate and, eviscerate the charm that's on everybody, to cure and remove their impurities, effectively, is what's happening here. They kind of made the explanation extremely simple, and I'll dive into it a little bit more in my cut contents. I feel like this is a scene that could have been worked on a little bit more, improved a little bit more as well, generally speaking. That being said though, I'm not gonna take it away. This scene looked really cool, man. I mean, it looked amazing. Seeing her, obviously use her power and everything, the way it looked, of course, as well. And yeah, it was amazing. I mean, it was truly, truly amazing. I mean, I really enjoyed this episode. Like I said, I think it was a strong episode. Maybe it's also because I've not seen Danmachi in a long time. I've been off from it for 3 weeks, obviously, right, nearly. So in that sense, maybe, but no, I think I really enjoyed it, of course, right? I definitely enjoyed it. Not even I think, I really enjoyed it as well. And it was also good to see, obviously, the reactions from all these familiar members, and everybody running. It was good. It was really good. I liked this part that we were seeing everybody. Naza as well. I was surprised to see Naza. I wasn't sure if they were going to show Naza as well and everything. They showed Naza. It would have been nice to see some more, maybe like Aisha and stuff like that. We did see Aisha. No, we did see Aisha, actually. No, I stand corrected. Aisha, Lulun, and keep forgetting his name. I'm not gonna lie. Sorry, lad. I keep forgetting your name from Hermes Familia. But yeah, it would have been nice to see, of course, more as well, potentially. It would have been cool to see. I mean, we did see a lot of people, and I think, again, that's where, again, if the opening was there, we might have seen a lot of that being cut, like we did in episode 5. Remember, episode 5, my biggest complaint was we didn't see Bel's interaction with anybody in terms of outside of his own familiar, realistically, and Mord, which... Cheers for that, JC stuff. We definitely needed Mord. Mord is the homie, to be fair. Mord is a homie, to be fair, but not who I was expecting to see when Belle was first converted to the Freya Familia for, of course, everybody's, first reactions and him realizing that nobody remembers him, kind of thing. Because in the light novel, of course, we had Cassandra and Mikoro. He was in front of, I think, the Takemikazuchi Familia was also there as well at one point, but, in this we didn't see any of that. We didn't see it in the anime, unfortunately, and so it would have been more impactful as well at this point in time to see everybody remember him and running towards him because of course, them realizing the situation and everything. But no, I think this was it was a great episode. I really enjoyed it. I'm curious to see what people have to say about it, because I think I remember from when I was on my trip and I was seeing the reactions, some people disliked it. Some people were saying that certain things were too fast. Some people were complaining about eyes being too lacking in the scene, only appearing for 1 quick second and that's it. And a couple of different things. I'll address it a bit more in the cut contents, but I feel like for an anime only and from my perspective, right, I think it was really well done, to be honest. From start to finish, you felt the impacts consistently. Ryu escaping, Horn and Belle's entire discussion and everything, and Belle's realization of the situation, Belle talking to Freya, understanding Freya a lot better, and setting out a goal for himself to save Freya. And then, of course, at the end, the realization, the Vesta scene, the realization by everybody that they were charmed. It was done well, in my opinion. This is what I was looking forward to the most, of course, from Volume 17. In all honesty, it was just the culmination and the start of what's to come, basically, in, of course, episode 10, which is, of course, the start of the War Games sequence. Now, of course, let me quickly just jump over to episode 10 in just a second by setting it up and bring it up on screen. But yeah, episode 9, in my opinion, very well done. I personally really enjoyed it. Episode 10, on the other hand, I do have some more issues with episode 10, and we'll talk about them as we go along. Now, a lot of people didn't have, or I should say a lot of people still don't like the idea of Freya, potentially being rescued, and also the idea of, everybody letting Freya off the hook. And to an extent, I do agree. I think she should be punished, and we'll find out, of course, at the end of the season if she is punished or not. But there is a ground truth in reality. A lot of people saying like, oh, they should just convert her entire familia into somebody else's familia, and you're acting as if they're not gonna listen. They're gonna listen. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's weird in that sense. People don't realize that these guys are devoted. The Freya familia is devoted to Freya herself, and not to mention, along with that, the social status, the idea of the Freya familia as a whole. It strikes fear, and it's also something that's super important to Aurario, as well as, of course, to the upcoming battles that Aurario and the world will face. As much as I'd like to, agree that she should be punished, I do think that there also needs to be an understanding that the Freya familia will probably not be disbanded. There might be a punishment still, maybe exiling, maybe suspension, maybe becoming a subservient familia to Hestia or something, right? Potentially. I just don't see her being sent back to heaven, and I don't see the familia being disbanded necessarily, because of the fact that the Freya familia in itself is such a integral part to the story for, of course, the continuation of the story, and also as well as being present at the final battle as a team of strength, effectively. You've got level 7s, level 6s and 5s and so on and so forth. So it is not something you can easily do, is just remove her. And so that is something to keep in mind. And I think that the way Freya portrayed it, very, very rudely, but aptly, was done well. I think this entire sequence, was done well in the sense of making sure to convey that point, which is great for anime onlys, because it gets the idea that, or not only the idea, but more so importantly, the importance of the Freya familia to the viewer, the three great quests, the social status, everything combined together. It's not easy. It's not easy to let Freya go so empty-handedly, and you have to take the chance at War Games to be able to punish her in some way, shape, or form, because otherwise she's going to get off scot-free, effectively, right? So that is something to keep in mind. Now comes the problem I have with this episode, and that's just the start of Volume 18 being effectively cut up majorly. So everything just happened super quick at the start of this episode, whereas I think, in my opinion, this is my personal opinion, I think this entire episode and maybe half of episode 11 should have been dedicated to the setup of War Games. Basically, what we're gonna get in the next episode should have been saved for episode 11's second half, or the start of episode 12, in my opinion. Because in my personal opinion, and this is my honest to God opinion, I think volume 18 shouldn't have been more than, well, they gave it 6 episodes. They gave it episode 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, right? 6 episodes, right? I think it should have been at least 4 or 5 episodes, in my opinion. I think 5 makes a lot more sense, purely because 1 episode for the first half of volume 18, which is obviously the setup, the discussions that we have, of course, with the War Games rules, Bell leveling up, the Royman Finn discussion, and all that sort of jazz. That could have been 1 entire episode on its own. And what you could have done with episode, well, the remaining part of the episode 10 or whatever it is give it to volume 17 instead, right? Is what I would have suggested. And then the rest would have been War Games. I think that would have been way better, personally, in my opinion. But ayo, this is how they've done it, and this is how they've executed it. Again, I have a sneaking suspicion, and this is my theory, that they potentially heard our complaints about season 2's 1 episode War Games scene, or 1 episode War Games thing, and decided, you know what, you're getting 5 episodes of War Games, which is crazy to say the least, you know what I mean? Because it's like, well, now that we're done with this episode 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 5 episodes for War Games. Let's say the final episode's more of like an epilogue episode, right? Even then, it's still like, that's a lot of episodes for War Games, but we'll wait and see how it's executed and how it's done. Maybe we might get some extra scenes. Maybe it's potentially going to include some other details that we've skipped out on so far. Potentially, it's not out of the question. It's not out of the question whatsoever. Again, the reason why I'm also very disappointed with this episode as well, not very disappointed is the wrong word, why I'm somewhat disappointed with this episode is because they don't explain the Loki familia not participating extremely well, and that is going to be a big problem for viewers, I feel. If you're an anime only, let me know what you guys think, of course, of the Loki familia not participating. Did you guys think you understood the reasoning behind it fairly well, or do you guys think it was kind of like a cop-out in some way, shape, or form? Because of course in the light novel, they, Royman makes a more passionate plea. In this case, he doesn't. He just quickly does it and says, you know what, don't participate. You will be in trouble if you don't participate. And, he bribes Finn a little bit in the situation, of course, right? Whereas he's a lot more desperate. He has a whole, it's like a 3 or 4 page, full-on back and forth, effectively. What this feels like was barely half a page, which it wasn't. It was a strong argument to be had, and the way they've portrayed this is, I remember when we got the spoilers for volume 18 for the very first time, people were translating volume 18 and stuff, right, back in the day. I say back in the day, this is literally like about a year and a half ago or so, or 2 years ago nearly now, actually, I should say. This is exactly, oh no, it's a year ago. No, 2 years ago. I'm pretty sure it's 2 years ago. No, but coming back to this point, it's 2 years ago, I'm pretty sure. This feels eerily like what that spoilers discussion was like, where it was like, oh, Royman somehow convinces Finn, and that's it. And it's like, well, how did he convince Finn? Explain to us, what did he convince Finn to do, and how did he convince Finn? You can't just say he convinced Finn, because it's not going to make any sense for anybody, right, as to why Finn would accept it, especially a Finn that's post SO12 and, of course, seen Bell develop and stuff. This is not the same Finn at all. And so I feel like that could have been done a lot better, in my opinion, in the anime especially. Obviously, I do have also complaints about the whole Eyes and Otaral thing, but again, I kind of put that more as a blame on Sword Art Toria not being adapted, more so, and also on Omori a little bit for putting it in Sword Art Toria primarily, so that it becomes very difficult for somebody who's only reading the main series to understand what was the reasoning behind it. Maybe they could have added an extra couple of words in here and there, and maybe a bit of an explanation as to what the favor was and why the favor came into play. Maybe that could have helped as well a little bit, because, like, I'll be honest and say, as an anime only viewer, I'd be like very confused as to why Eyes would have agreed so easily. And a lot of people will say, like, oh, also, and this is a point that I think a lot of people will say, like, oh, why would Eyes be honoring this favor and stuff, right? Well, the thing is, in the books and in the light novel, Otaral kind of puts more of an emphasis on the whole, if you don't honor yourself and honor this favor, you don't honor your combat skills, your sword, your weapon. And a lot of people don't really understand that, but that's such a big thing in Japan, and just the whole thing. It's a culture thing. It's a very big culture thing, and you kind of see it seep into Danmachi as a result of it. A lot of people say that fuck that shit, that's not right, it doesn't make any sense, and yada yada yada. But it is a thing. It is a thing. Honor is such a big thing in Japan and as a culture, and of course in their history and stuff like that. It makes sense there. I'm sorry to say, but you have to be accepting of the culture and the situations. Yes, you may not like it. That's absolutely fine. You cannot like it, but you need to be also understanding that it is something that's completely different to what we have. I know that, the Western world, and I am part of said Western world, doesn't live by honor that much anymore. Honor is a forgotten thing. Let's be real, right? Honor is a forgotten thing in the real world at this point in time. And so obviously it's going to be something that people will not care about potentially. But in Danmachi, especially in a fantasy world, not only that, a fantasy world that's inspired by, of course, obviously, well, first and foremost, it's written by a Japanese author, so he's gonna incorporate some of his own cultures primarily in there, of course, right? But obviously something that's also taking from Japanese culture a little bit in terms of the sword fighting side of things and everything, right? Yeah, I think it is something that you have to kind of be accepting of and understanding as to why Eyes would be more than willing, would be kind of in two minds to sort of honor or not honor the favor in a way. You know what I mean? It is a bit of a struggle there, unfortunately. It is a struggle there for Eyes, and I do feel bad for her. But yeah, again, I think also expression-wise, they could have probably done a better job with Eyes, by the way, here, making her feel more conflicted. She just seems, again, as per usual, expressionless here. Maybe if she was a little bit more conflicted, maybe a little bit more angry at herself, that could have been nice to see, but that's classic JC staff with Eyes on that one. I'm gonna be honest and say that was a bit rough, to be honest. After this, it's a lot of setup, which I really enjoy and everything. I really like all of this at this point onwards. It was all well and good. Again, this is a little bit awkward for me as a light novel reader, because in the anime makes it feel like it's Lily and Finn's first time meeting, and Lily like addressing Finn very respectfully and all that sort of stuff for the first time, whereas it's not really the case, of course, right? Because of course, Volume 8, SO12, so many different scenarios have happened where Finn has had the opportunity to work with Lily in some way, shape, or form, is the best way to put it. And so, for me personally, I feel like, again, it feels a little bit weird as a light novel reader, seeing like, okay, they're acting as if they're meeting together for the first time, which is very bizarre. But yeah, outside of that, I really like all of the other things that we see here. It would have been nice to see some of the other female goddesses, of course, right? It was good to see this here, but it would have been nice to see more as well. But yeah, no, I really enjoyed everything else here. Obviously, everything else was done super, super well. Can't really put a fault in the rest of the episode. I think it's just that start, man. That start was a little rough, in my opinion. I think that start was a little bit rough. I think maybe if they'd potentially and this is my thought process, they removed the ending from the last episode, volume 17, chucked in what was at the start of this episode into that section, given a little bit more time, removed the opening as well, because this episode for some reason had the opening as well. I think it would have been a much better episode overall, to be quite honest, in my opinion. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about the episode as a whole. Did you guys understand the concepts of the war games and everything? Let me know your thoughts. I'm quite curious to see what you guys have to say down below. What were your thoughts on both episodes 9 and 10 as well? But yeah, no, really like the episode. Both episodes have issues with them nonetheless, for sure. But I enjoyed them, man. As an anime viewer and as somebody who's watching it, you know, just seeing the Danmachi stuff come to life, I'm enjoying it massively personally, to be honest. I'm enjoying it tremendously. So yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Leave a like if you enjoyed it, subscribe to the channel, all that sort of good stuff, and I will catch you guys in the next video. And of course, the next one is going to be the start of war games, so I cannot wait to obviously share my reactions and everything with you guys. We're getting ready, man. We're getting ready. It's exciting times. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Take it easy, everybody. Bye bye.